Hey, guys, and welcome to another episode of WFM Tipsy Thursdays. I am your show host, the Contact Center Whisperer, the CEO and founder of Solid Rock Consulting. And I am super excited about this week's episode where we're talking about how you handle employee absenteeism and what impact does tardiness and those types of things have on workforce management, the operations and workforce management teams, how they're navigating that territory, especially as we're talking more and more about customer experience that's coming forward to the forefront of conversations, as well as employee experience. So this week I have the amazing, the epic Carolyn Lingle. Carolyn, thank you so much for being my guest with me this week. I'm cheesing so hard because I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
I'm super psyched to be here.
I'm so happy. I think we're going to have such an amazing conversation. I can't wait for the audience to give their feedback. Before we hop in, can you tell me a little bit more about like when you first discovered workforce management? And, people don't wake up and be like, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna be a workforce manager today. That doesn't happen.
Sure.
And you have had an amazing career. You're a director of workforce management now. So tell me a little bit more about when you discovered workforce management, why you stuck with it.
Sure, yeah. So like a lot of people, I was in the call center and really kind of just fell into it, got interested more in the math behind how to understand the forecast. And I do have a background in psychology, which a lot of people think is about behavioral analysis, but it's really a lot of statistics if you really get into it. So had a bit of background in statistics, was in a really small call center where we were growing fast, and they decided, hey, we need to implement workforce management and quality and a training program. And I got kind of picked to lead that and create that, and just love the challenge. I love the puzzle every day of trying to figure out how can we put all these pieces together to make a great customer experience, and also really have a lot of passion for the contact center agent. It is such a difficult job, and if I can help make that a little bit easier and make that, or help them be more engaged, then that just makes my day. But I would say the moment that I really fell in love with workforce management is the first day that your forecast volume matched what happened, right? Like that high of being like, I was right.
I knew it. I told you it's going to rain.
And then every day since has just been like, how do I get that high again? Am I going to be right?
Right. Yeah. How close am I going to be to right? That's so epic. And I love that you have a background in psychology. Like I tease so a lot of times my customers come and we're doing we have a program here called WFM Accelerator and WFM Building Bridges. And it's really about standing up workforce management programs inside of organizations and departments. And the Building Bridges one is about building a relationship between WFM and the operations team, right? Really building that bridge, because a lot of times there's a lot of tension. And so customers always tease me because in our sessions, they're like, it's like, I'm at a psychologist. I'm sitting on my therapist's couch. This is workforce management therapy. And you can't tell me that I'm not a therapist. I'm like, yeah, I love psychology. I have so many different books around psychology and influence and all the different things because I love that. So it's so interesting that you have that background.
Yeah. And people don't realize, how much of that comes into play, right? If you think about industrial organizational psychology and how that plays a role in doing workforce management, quality, training, contact center management, right? Our whole goal is to influence behavior. And you can't control behavior, but you can influence it.
Yes.
And that's where that psychology really comes from, which aligns perfect to our topic today,
yes.
right?
Absolutely. So let's hop into the topic. Let's
Yeah.
hop into the topic. Give me, Carolyn, in your own words, if how does absenteeism and tardiness impact workforce management? Because I think a lot of times, if we just think about it very tactically, sometimes we think about, oh, I need butts and seats. But I would love to hear your perspective on how it impacts workforce management.
What you just said is great, right? There is a tactical component. There is the power of one, where if one person is gone, it really does impact your plan for the whole day and the staffing and how those butts and seats work. At the same time, it impacts the rest of the team that's there too, right? Then they get more calls and they don't have the 360 view of what's going on, especially when you have people in different offices or working from home, right? They just feel it. They don't see the tactical of what happened and why it happened and have the empathy for what is going on with that person that they were late or that they couldn't make it today. They just feel busier.
Yeah.
And it's that the balance of workforce management is so tough because you don't want to overstaff, but you don't want to understaff. You need just that right amount. So if you're really working towards that right amount, just a few absenteeisms or even 5 minutes late can make a huge impact.
Significant impact. And I love what you said about it's not just a tactical part of, okay, absenteeism impacts butts and seat, right? But it also then impacts the remaining people that are there and their perception and what they feel about what's going on. The burnout that people feel when we think about the employee experience, and people are burnt out. And so now that's impacting your customer experience because now my tolerance and my patience for, getting cursed out may be a little shorter, right, than it was if the calls were evenly spread and only had maybe 3 calls a day. Now, because I got 30 calls a day, you only got one more time to say something crazy to me before you get disconnected. Like those times.
Oh yeah, the stress ball definitely comes out. And the other part is that all goes towards your shrinkage trend as well. So when you're then putting in your thresholds for PTO later on, right, you may not approve as much PTO because someone's going to call out. So then that cycle keeps going, right? Then the people who are remaining are now burnt out. They got denied PTO. Now, they're going to be more likely to just call out unplanned because we've left them now with no other options.
Absolutely. 1,000%. So the next question I have for you, Carolyn, is give me a common myth or mistake then that operations or WFM leaders make when dealing with and handling absenteeism and tardiness. Is that if you're like, yeah, that's an epic mistake, being so seasoned, right? What would be that thing that you would say?
So if we go back to the psychology topic, right, and then we think about how do we influence behavior, there's an accountability component, but there's also a reward or gamification component. So a lot of times the focus will be on how do I hold my people accountable, right? And doing performance management and attendance policies and making sure that we have scorecards and metrics that drive the behavior from kind of that stick mentality instead of also focusing on the carrot. Where can we incorporate gamification or a reward system to help people feel like when I'm here, I'm valued and that me being here makes a difference?
Yeah, that got right into the tip because that's a myth, right? And a mistake that organizations commonly make is that first, if they're even doing that, right? If they're even holding people accountable, because now if you don't have you can't manage what you don't measure. And so many times, if you're not measuring it, you don't have an accountability system in place in the first place. So I don't even know that after 3 tardies that this is what happens, right? You're just kind of making up stuff
I don't
as you
have a
go
consequence.
along. Right. So that's first layer. But as we get into, okay, organizations that are at least attempting, right? They're saying, okay, well, we want to focus on the accountability things, where one of those epic, or not epic mistakes, but one of the things that catches people up by surprise, if I'm hearing you correctly, is, okay, that's the accountability piece of, okay, I have visibility into the metric and how I'm being held accountable. But now what about the value part of it? Making sure that people feel valued for being there, valued for showing up, value for being a contributor, value for all the things. And so, like you said, that carrot type of thing. So I think that that's super key that you mentioned, not only as a myth and mistake that occurs, but also as a tip, right? That was going to be my next question. So I'll ask, because you may have a different tip, right? When handling absenteeism and those types of things, what are some of the tips or pieces of advice you would give to leaders? One you've already given us, it was around gamification and setting that carrot. But is there anything else that you would give as a piece of advice of, hey, this is how you could probably get your absenteeism down, or those types of things?
Number one, talk to your agents, understand what is the underlying cause of the absenteeism or tardiness, so that you can try to help come up with other solutions. Maybe somebody just needs their shift changed. I just can't get there at this time. Is there an alternative shift for me to accommodate my schedule and resolve the issue? And people get sick. Can we, when we're not so busy, make sure that we have enough PTO to accommodate them being able to relax and have that time away and vacation, so that they're not burnt out? Because burnout and stress also causes you to become more ill, right? And so you're going to have more absenteeism if they're completely burned out and stressed. And also focus on wellness. Take some time to talk through, how can people de-stress? Where are opportunities for us to, increase your immune system, right? So one of the things that I've seen call centers do that I would say stay away from is, I have to call my manager to report that I'm going to be absent or late, because the thought process is that if I have to talk to somebody, I will be held more accountable and will have some sense of guilt to reduce the probability that I will call out. We don't want our agents to feel guilty for having to take care of themselves and having to put a pause on work, because that's never going to end in a positive culture.
Right.
So having mechanisms where, if there is an emergency and something is happening, that I can more easily report it, is better than me feeling guilty and having to go out of my way
and shamed
to talk to someone, because I do care about my work, right? It comes back to that assuming positive intent, and that if they were able to be there, they would be there.
Yeah, I love that. And you can tell that's from a mind of a psychologist, right? Like, I love that, because it's so true, right? I've heard that too before. Like, oh yeah, they have to call in. You almost make like it so many hoops that you have to jump through in order to report your absence. And so what ends up happening is you just have, no call, no shows. Right. It's like, well, I'm not calling, texting, and sacrificing the blood of a goat and 3 lambs in order to call out for the day. Like, I'm not doing all of that, like, I can't be there. If I could be there, that's at that point that becomes work. I got to do 30 things in order to actually call out for the day. And the thought behind it many times is either if, again, we make it cumbersome, then they won't do it, or they'll feel bad about doing it and we'll have less of them. And if somebody has to feel bad about not coming to work, then likely it's not the place for them in the first place. I love that thought. I knew that this was going to be such, you dropped so many gems. I absolutely thoroughly enjoy having you on.
Sounds good.
How epic was that? I mean, Carolyn dropped so many nuggets around the psychology and the impact that tardiness and absenteeism has on the workforce and other agents that were experiencing that burnout and how that impacts customer and employee experience. And she also then shared some tips and tricks with us and some myths with us as well, or common mistakes that organizations make. Absolutely love the episode. We have to have Carolyn back. You already know what to do. If you have a topic that you want us to cover, shoot me a DM. Get in my DM, my direct message, and we will cover it. I want to see your comments below. We come back and read them. So check us out and stay tuned for the next episode. Until next time, go be great and let's make impact. See y'all soon. Bye.